Hey guys, I just wanted to sort of riff off what's already being said in the comments section. Um, I guess everybody sort of has a general agreement as to Cohen's attitude or behavior. Um, Mr. Teacup on Twitter actually says something very similar. Um, how can we recognize that his enlightenment experience and his connection to that, dimension of reality is authentic, but his behavior and the way he handled it, that's the part that's irresponsible and worthy of criticism. So I guess it's just sort of like a halfway point. Like he had it, he didn't handle it very well. I mean, I would think I would tend to agree. Um, we also mentioned Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti did he sort of has a similar tendency to act very impatiently with his audience, very just get it, like, or wake up. And I think, at least as I mentioned, Krishnamurti's teaching style, he seemed to be, I guess, his limitation, and perhaps also his strength to some, was that he was very impatient, very demanding, but in a sort of a, oh, get on with it already, why won't you change? Um, I don't know, Cohen just seems a little self-important in a different way. I do like Krishnamurti a little bit more, only because it's impatience and not just manipulation, control. The ego. Well, I don't know. I mean, everybody has an ego. Krishnamurti, of course, did too, and it definitely came out a little bit when he talked. But I think it was a little bit different in the way he handled the audience. His touchiness was more of a the master is getting impatient with his students, but I mean that had its limitations too. I mean, a lot of people, from what I've gathered at least, seemed like they were confused. I mean, I remember reading, questions from his audience, and the students would say, I've been listening to you for years. What am I doing wrong? Um, Now, given I don't think any spiritual teacher can um, wake everybody up or help everybody see or recognize enlightenment, but in his case, his impatience, it works with some people. Other people, you kind of you need to be disciplined, yeah, but there's also a sense of nurturing that can be helpful too. Um, I guess Krishnamurti was more of a system buster than a system maker, and I guess from Cohen's point of view, he's creating and trying to impress upon people these new ideas. Um, while Krishnamurti was very much just trying to break up those old ideas. Um, and this, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to mention before. But yes, we also mentioned that it's very important to develop a sort of ability to cultivate awareness in somebody, almost like help it grow out of them rather than um, be too tough on them. I mean, it's sort of like you have to let it actualize. But I think any good teacher creates an environment where that's more and more probable. They set things up so the practitioner um, cuts away a lot of unnecessary things and begins to realize, their inner nature. Um, so, I mean, if a teacher doesn't do that, if instead they're impressing upon or perhaps a little bit too roughly teaching, I mean, no teacher's perfect, but it tends not to be able to resonate with as many people. And I mean, honestly, as we also said, if it doesn't work for you, find another teacher, um, or maybe no teacher at all. Maybe you don't need a teacher in that way. Some of us do. And the final point was about the need to acknowledge flowing states and enlightenment inflowing states. Now, this reminds me a lot of what Buddhism is actually saying, um, on how reality is always in a constant state of flux, but at the same time, um, we can realize that which just is, and that which is not um, changing, that which is beyond change. Uh, as they say in Zen, that which was never born will never die. Uh, so, I mean, there's this other aspect of reality, which is one and the same, but I think it's a good idea what Cohen's doing, and that's sort of emerging in other areas, recognizing uh, the old description of flux in Buddhism as impermanence, as also having another quality to it, evolutionary quality. Not only is the universe in flux, but the universe is in flux towards more unity, more convergence, more complexity. And riding that wave and understanding the nature of the physical world can be better actualized through enlightenment or recognizing spiritual realities. So it's really it's really learning to balance yourself while you're surfing. Like learning the center of the storm. It's almost like a storm that woke up to its own eye, if that makes sense. I mean, evolutionary enlightenment is sort of that idea, and I at heart agree with it. Um, and the same, in a sense, Teilhard's saying the same thing, and that Cohen is, that evolution is waking up to itself, and waking up to spirit or God within. The same sort of thing, I think. So I very much like this idea that flux and flow and evolution are a part of reality. This is the physical reality. This is the phenomenon of our existence. And it doesn't stop anywhere. It just keeps flowing to more and more complex states, which I think is good because it enables us to um, learn to master reality, but not manipulate it, control it. We don't want to control it. We just want to move with the flow and just live. Um, and that goes into another whole other aspect. But I hope that this whole idea of evolution and enlightenment can be used in a way that isn't too boxy, that isn't too redundant, because after all, we already are. Um, well, the two concepts, evolutionary enlightenment, we're always evolving. The universe is evolving. And enlightenment, well, we just have to recognize that. So it's really nothing new, it's just a modern interpretation of the teachings, that hopefully will not end at Cohen. I'm hoping that we'll be able to recognize other more less problem-ridden manifestations of this understanding in the near future, and we can recognize it through many spiritual teachers. But I think in this dialogue, we already are, to some degree, moving past any kind of shadows that are going on in Cohen's work, and also moving past, I mean, Teilhard, he said the same thing, but he's barely spoken about. So I think a re-emergence of these subjects are going to be very helpful for any kind of modern spiritual teaching. So I guess I would just like to end there. If this was a ramble, sorry. But these are all very interesting subjects that came up during the comments, and I just thought I would just comment on the comments. But yeah, thanks for listening, and yeah, post a video response if you're interested.